Good morning. Well, how do you grow your own vegetables to save money for groceries? One way that I found that works for us is to grow perennial vegetables that are hardy to our zone, and then to see the wild herbs and wild plants that the land provides us that are edible, and to know the ones that are medicinal. So once that I know the ones that are edible and they can be eaten raw or cooked, I harvest them as well. So it is spring and today is May 15, 2020, and I'm baking sourdough bread, baking chicken for lunch, and I'm going to harvest greens in the garden that we can use for salad, and that salad is going to be the lunch for us today. So let's get started. Right now we have onion, and it is Egyptian walking onion, and it is perennial to our zone 5. And right next to it we have garlic mustard, and garlic mustard is what the land provides us. I think they are annual, but they sell so, and that's in the same family as mustard, so they can be eaten raw or cooked. So let's get in the garden. And you can see the garden. We pretty much fence it ourselves, and that's the backyard. The property is 10,000 square footage. The house is about 1,000 square footage. And the garden could easily be over 2,000 square footage, since we have garden at the front and we have it at the back. And you can see the garlic mustard all over in the garden itself. So we are going to harvest them, and we are going to harvest sorrel as well. And while we are talking about it, I can talk about other things that are in the garden. Right now we have currants, black currants. The mother tree is at the front, and I cut the branch early spring. I trimmed down some branches like the previous year branch, and just dig it and plant it. You'll cut it like a full long and plant it in the ground, and few years later is fruiting already. But we have sorrel here, and sorrel is what we will use as well. So I'm just going to start harvesting. And I might probably start with pretty much anything that I've seen my. Okay, so I have this on the So now I'm going to add some of the garlic mustard. And garlic mustard can really, they grow in the shade, under the sun, and they can really take over your garden. So at some point, I will come and cut them down to mulch the garden with, so that I don't have a lot of seeds from them. And the seed can be used as well as spice, like mustard seed, for instance, but I don't go through that trouble. And I'll cut them down because I have them all over the places, so that some can grow to seed, but not all of them. They are biennial, think they will, I think they usually, frankly, I don't know anymore because they are constantly growing in the garden. I have some younger plants right now in the garden, but usually they grow 1 year and succeed the next year, but they grow through winter. Like they stay alive under the snow as well. They are not bothered by the snow at all, like here. So in summertime, the leaves will be rough, so that would be good to harvest them for cooking. And been harvesting them because they are quite a bit in the garden. I harvest some and pretty much rinse them and put the leaves in a bag and freeze them. Usually I chop the leaves, but I didn't this time so that I can just go fast. So to do that, what I like to do is just cut the whole plant few inches below above the ground, and then I'll cut a bunch of them, and I'll sit down and I'll take the leaf off. That way I won't have to bend for an extended period of time. So now let's move. I think we can find some here as well, but while we are here, I can show some herbs. And that's wild mustard, and for some reason now they are spreading to the ground, to the pathway, and they are easy to propagate. Like just cut some and put it in a moist area and put some dirt on it, and they will root. But yeah, and those are some that I can take for kefir dressing to go with the salad. Didn't take much, but one few feet away we have winter savory, and winter savory perennial herbs to zone 5A. I can add it to the dressing as well. It's not a lot, but I'm not going to harvest a lot of them. I have now come across dandelion. We do have dandelion, so and that's dandelions. You can see the flowers, so dandelions will go in it as well. Next to the dandelion, I have sorrel. Can harvest some, and this sorrel is going to start flowering. That's why in the spring it's like a race. I had to harvest the greens quickly, rinse them, chop them, and put them in the freezer for winter. And when we need greens for eating or cooking, I will just come in the garden and harvest what we need. But then I will harvest and put in the freezer for winter. So we have more. In fact, while we are here, I will need to come and there are some flowers in the garden that I need to come down. So here is garlic. I grow garlic like perennial because it is. I leave the bulb in the ground year around. And if I dig them out in summer, I will plant them right away where I wanted to propagate it. Like, yeah, if they are crowded in one area, I can dig some out. In summer, when they die down, and then plant it right away. I don't wait to fall, plant it right away. But I like to eat the greens, and they can be eaten raw or cooked as well. So I will add it to the dressing. Okay, like this for you to see them at the ground level. But yeah. And those are hard neck garlics. I have soft neck as well, but these one are hard neck, so they will produce bubbles at the top, and those bubbles, they will fall down, and they will produce garlic the following year as well. So let's continue harvesting around here, and we have garlic mustard we will harvest here, but we have sorrel there as well, and we have an apple tree right there. And those garlic mustard are on the pathway, so I will have to cut them out of here and mulch the garden with it. And we do have a lot of flowers. I believe they are lilies or sort of lilies. They have, I think they have like a trumpet type of flower, and they were on the property before we came, so try to move some from the original area and put it in other places of the garden and now, and at the front as well. But those flowers, they really like to take over. So I'm just going to move around and see what I can do here. And you can see our bucket is almost full. We will add apple. We will chop apple and add it to it as well. So we have dandelion here. We will get that, but we do have wild thyme there rubbed underneath the apple tree. So those are a lot more grown. And we have winter savory here as well. Let's get the dandelion. and I think we have enough grains to work with for our lunch. So yeah, and sorrel, by growing sorrel, we do not buy spinach anymore. They replace spinach and lettuce for us. So we do not purchase spinach, we do not purchase lettuce. It can be eaten raw, it can be cooked as well. So I like to harvest them, chop them, and put them in the freezer for cooking in winter time. And there are garlic mustard. So those will seed next year. And they are all over. They really, that's a very, I don't even know how I'll explain it, but they are all over here. And having garlic mustard, they can be eaten raw, they can be cooked. You know, they replace lettuce and spinach for us as well. And they are in the cabbage and mustard family. So, and in some way, they easily can replace cabbage and kale in your cooking as well. So we use them, and we have dandelions, can be eaten raw, can be cooked. So we use them as salad, and we use them in cooking as well. I just don't find enough on the property to harvest gallons worth, so I will have them in the freezer as well. But a lot of time I use them right away for salad. Just have some here, right away. So those are the greens we have in springs that we use in salad and in our cooking, and they replace lettuce and spinach for us. In summer, we will have lamb squatter, and lamb squatter can be eaten raw and can be cooked as well. And lamb squatter is in the same family as spinach, and they like to grow on our property. And I like to let those edible wild green go to seed. And doing that, the seed will fall and they will start growing. And the first time I put a fence on our garden at the back was to preserve a lamb squatter. When I found out that it was a lamb squatter, and I searched it and know it was edible, it was because I have a plant that was growing and was about to seed. And then few days later, a deer took a bite of it, and then I bought a fence and put this fence on because it was growing somewhere in this area of the garden. And it was just funny, like for somebody to hear that you put a fence on to protect a wild plant. But yeah, and that's one of the idea that started all. But then when I started planting fruit trees at the front, and deer and bunny were bothering them, I put fence at the front, and then came back and started putting fence at the back as well. So let's go check horseradish, a spice that you can grow. And by growing your own herbs, you can, they can replace spices for us. That's one way we save money. So we grow our own herbs, and I found out that horseradish is hardy to our zone 5. So we grow horseradish, and pretty much we have garlic, and you can see them there. That was the original spot when we moved here that I planted them. So I have soft neck and hard neck in this area, and they are still here. So sometimes I'll dig some in summer and replant in other areas so that I can have enough, because I just eat the leaves and keep the bulb in the ground. But you can see them bunch up there, and you can see them there. So that was a bed. You can see the wood. That was the bed, this area. But now I put horseradish in it, and this is horseradish, and the variety that I have, the greens can be cooked. They are edible, but I have not done it. So, and in fall, I will dig some out and I will cut some to replant so that I can propagate them. But they are really taking over this area. But yeah, and that's a root. The root is the spice. So having garlic and having winter savory, wild thyme, having Egyptian onion, horseradish. We do not buy garlic in the store. We do not buy onion from the store, and I stopped buying spices. I used to buy a lot of spices for cooking, and I don't do that anymore. Once I use all the one that I have, I stop buying spices so that I can rely on my herbs to season my cooking. So the garlic, the green, can be eaten raw, can be cooked, and I would like to come here, harvest them, chop them, put them in the freezer, because once they start flowering, the leaf won't be that good. So and I have another green on the property that I like to come back. I'm not seeing it yet, but close we have quincy tree, and quincy is flowering for us, and that's a fruit tree that bunny damage the mother plant sometimes, and then I put chicken wire around the plants, but it came back, and this year is flowering for us, and it's full of flower. It fruited once already before bunny damage it. But yes, you can see you can grow your own vegetables, your own greens, and your own herbs to replace spices and replace some greens in your grocery list. That way you won't have to buy them. That's one way you can reduce your grocery budget, or you can keep the same budget even though prices are increasing at the grocery. Increasing at the store. So I'm going to find onion. We passed some of them already, but while we are here, I'm sure I will come across some, because that's something I like to plant all over as well. And right next to quincy, we have peach tree, and we have peach tree that is flowering. I don't be able to see the flower. Right underneath it, I have black currant that I propagated, and I'm not sure you'll be able to see it from here, but we have grape. But let's get some onion for our cooking. And while it's spring, and I'm harvesting a lot of them for this one is going to start making the flower as well. It will grow a stem that will carry the bubbles, and they're about to start doing that. So once they do that, they won't put that much energy into the greens, and the greens over time will wilter. So therefore, I need to harvest them as quickly as possible, chop them, and put them in the freezer for onion, for our onion supply in winter, while we continue eating from the garden this spring. So in spring, we pretty much make our supplies for winter use. We do that in spring and fall because we grow greens. Greens tend to grow when the weather is cool. So that will be spring and fall. So spring and fall, we quickly harvest our we harvest a lot and process and put in the freezer for winter while we keep eating from the garden. So I don't have a lot of onion patch in this side of the garden, but I pretty much like to grow everything everywhere so that they choose what side of the garden they enjoy more. But we have a lot of fruit trees, and over time that will dictate where what will grow because of the shade they will produce. So I like to grow at the ground level so that I can make those changes when they are needed. And growing at the ground level are mulch, therefore I do not water. So you can grow your own food without having more expenses. And by going with perennial vegetables, you do not buy seed every year. You buy once, you plant them, and that's it. And that's why we have fruit trees. That way, over time, we can harvest our own fruit and save on our fruit budget, because we have $60 that we spend on fruit. That's our fruit budget a month. And we like to buy fruit when they are on sale. So there is a dandelion here, and I can harvest some. Seems kind of dirty though, but yeah. And we mulch the ground with fall leaves. I don't do anything to them. I don't compost because I mulch. I just put things in the garden raw straight. If we have fruit peels, they will be the green, they will go straight in the garden. Fall leaves, we harvest them, we rake them, and we put them right away in the garden. So that way I don't need to have compost bin separate. And we have some of the garlic mustard here, and I can harvest more. And you can see them, they are quite a bit around here. And I'll take all of this inside and we will start putting our salad together. So if you have your own house, you have a little land, it's a good idea you put a garden. And at the beginning it will cost you money because if you have deer and bunnies around, it might be a good idea to fence your garden. So those can be, if you do it yourself, it does cost some money depending on the type of wires you purchase. But then you can see fruit trees and vegetables that are hardy to your zone, and you introduce them to your garden. So you do those search, and if you pay attention to your yard, you'll notice it. The wild plants that are growing, if you know their name, it could tell you what will grow well in your area. So for instance, if I have lamb squirrel growing in my area, things like if I grow spinach, is going to grow. That's one way to put it as well. So yeah, and having mustard in the garden, garlic mustard, if I plant regular mustard, it will grow. But I'm not going to plant regular mustard. I've done it in the past, they grow well. But again, if you are growing annual, you have to keep purchasing the seed to grow them, or you have to let them go to seed and harvest your own seeds. But then annuals, sometimes over time you have to feed the land, unless depending on what you are growing too. The greens might be okay, but I just feel like those perennials, they can go deep, their root can go deep, look for their own food. And they can be really resistant as well. And I like to believe that our food can be our own medicine, and eating those resilient food can make our body strong. So, and if they are edible, I don't want to fight them by weeding them, but I just like to eat them and mulch my garden with them. So it has been working for me so far. And another greens in the garden that is annoying is creeping Charlie, and is a ground cover. It is medicinal and it is edible, so they can go in our salad as well. I don't like to harvest them much, but because they are low at the ground level, but while we are here, I can add some to